Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. This is going to be a review of Wednesday's edition of Dynamite, which was the April 20th edition. And Dynamite on Wednesday was from the Petersen Events Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And tonight's Rampage, of course, was taped from there, what we're going to be seeing later on tonight. And Dynamite, I thought it was a good show this week. We had CM Punk taking on Dustin Rhodes. The Blackpool Combat Club, Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, and Jon Moxley. They ended up taking on Brock Anderson, Dante Martin, and Lee Moriarty in a trios match. We saw Warlow versus The Butcher. We had two matches for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, qualifying matches. We had a men and a women's match. For the men, we had Kyle O'Reilly versus Jungle Boy. And for the women, we had Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Danielle, Kamela. Hook made his in-ring debut on Dynamite, considering we're all used to Hook being on Rampage and having matches, so this marked Hook's Dynamite in-ring debut. And in the main event, we saw a Coffin match, Darby Allin versus Andrade El Idolo. But Dynamite this week for Wednesday was a good show, enjoyed it. Didn't do a review of it on Wednesday because I was working late, so I DVR'd it and watched it this morning. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Dynamite kicked off with CM Punk versus Dustin Rhodes. And this was a good match here. Punk and Dustin did a good job in this match. Both these guys. Before the match started off, we had both Punk and Dustin end up shaking hands. They were respecting each other. And then they went for a lockup. Dustin ended up starting the match off with a shoulder tackle to Punk and then delivered a hip toss. Punk ended up slowing down the match. He was doing some hip tosses to Dustin. Punk then ended up started to work on Dustin's leg, and he was just stomping down on it, and Dustin's leg was propped up on the bottom rope. Dustin ended up picking up the pace, started delivering a few shots to Punk. He then tried to go for a body slam to Punk, and Dustin's leg ended up giving up on him as he tried to lift Punk up. So the body slam didn't work. Punk ended up dropping Dustin back down to him. He then started mocking Dustin's gold dust pose. And that led to Dustin delivering some punches to Punk. Dustin was trying to go for a roll-up. Punk ended up kicking out. And Punk ended up getting hit by a lariat by Dustin. So Punk then once again focused on Dustin's leg. He ended up dropping an elbow down to Dustin's leg. Punk ended up getting dumped outside by Dustin. And Punk once again swiped the leg of Dustin. And Dustin ended up responding. He ended up kicking Punk into the turnbuckle. And Dustin ended up dragging down Punk face first onto the ring apron. So it was back and forth between both of them. Dustin then ended up hitting a back body drop onto Punk. And he then ended up leveling Punk with some lariats. So Dustin ended up hammering down some shots to Punk in the corner. And his knee was given out again at that point. And that allowed Punk to go for the knee once again. Dustin ended up moving. And he then ended up hitting the code red. And he went for the cover. And Punk ended up kicking out. Punk was then looking to go for the GTS. Dustin ended up fighting out of that with the uppercut into a power slam. Good combo there by Dustin. And so Dustin went for the cover. Punk kicked out again. So Punk connected with a kick to Dustin's face, and he followed it up with a chop block. Punk then locked in the figure 4, and he started exchanging slaps to Dustin. Dustin ended up reversing the figure 4, and Punk ended up getting to the ropes. Dustin ended up hitting the crossroads, which he followed up by a pile driver, and he went for the cover, and Punk kicked out of that. So at the end of the match, we had Punk end up trying to go for the GTS as Dustin ended up countering that. Punk ended up landing on Dustin. He ended up hooking Dustin's legs, and he ended up catching Dustin with a pinfall. And there you go. Punk ended up winning the match there. Post-match, we had Punk and Dustin showing respect to each other, and Dustin was telling something to Punk. We couldn't actually hear what they were saying, and so they both end up hugging. And so as Punk ended up making his way to the back, Hangman Adam Page ended up coming out. Page came out, and we had a stare down between Page and Punk. So that was pretty awesome to see. But overall, this was a good match between Punk and Dustin. Both guys worked really well here, and it was very enjoyable. Very enjoyable match it was. And then we saw footage of Warlow coming into the arena. So when Warlow ended up coming in, of course, got stopped by security because MJF doesn't want Warlow in the arena everywhere they go for Dynamite. And this whole storyline between MJF and Warlow, they have done such a great job with this whole feud and storyline. Just been very enjoyable. So Mark Sterling was there. Mark Sterling ended up telling Warlow that security will take him to his closet. And then after Warlow had his match with the Butcher, the security will have escort him out. So Mark Sterling ended up saying that they demand that Warlow will be handcuffed in this moment. So security then end up handcuffing Warlow, and Mark Sterling end up saying to Warlow, "Oh, I got a message from MJF to tell you." And that is, "Eat shit, pig." So Mark Sterling walked off. Warlow retaliated and said, "Oink, oink, bitch," which I thought that was funny. But this whole thing reminded me of when they handcuffed Kane back in the day when he came out with the security. It reminded me of that. You know, Warlow being handcuffed, security taking him out there. So that was that. And then we had the Blackpool Combat Club. Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, and Jon Moxley. They end up taking on Brock Anderson, Dante Martin, and Lee Moriarty. Trios match. Good trios match here. We had, of course, William Regal on commentary. It's always great to hear Regal do commentary. So the Blackpool Combat Club, they end up attacking Brock Anderson, Dante Martin, and Lee Moriarty. They end up taking control of the match. Wheeler Yuta and Dante Martin began the match, and Dante Martin ended up hitting Wheeler Yuta with a kick. Yuta grabbed Martin's face, dragged him to their corner, to the Blackpool Combat Club corner. Bryan ended up coming in, and Bryan started a series of kicks to Dante Martin and some chops. And then he launched into Dante Martin with a drop kick. Dante Martin came back. He ended up catching Bryan with a drop kick of his own. and it led to Moxley coming in. Dante Martin ended up attacking Moxley, and Moxley turned that around, and Bryan ended up dropping down with a knee while Brock Anderson was hanging on the ropes. And Wheeler Yuta ended up charging Brock Anderson into the ring steps. Yuta ended up coming in, and then we had the Blackpool Combat Club. They were just making frequent tags to each other. Brock Anderson ended up delivering a spine buster to Moxley. And then Lee Moriarty charged in with some boots. And he ended up springboarding in to take down Bryan and start unloading some knee strikes. So Lee Moriarty ended up hitting a suplex. Bryan ended up getting out with another suplex, and Dante Martin ended up tagging in, ended up hitting a big drop kick. Moxley ended up tagging in, but he was sent to the outside as Dante Martin ended up diving out to Moxley. So at the end of the match, Moxley then ended up hitting the paradigm shift, and there you go. The Blackpool Combat Club ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a good trios match. Loving what they're doing with the Blackpool Combat Club with Wheeler Yuta and Moxley and Bryan, and having Wheeler Yuta as the ROH Pure Champion. And they have just been very good so far. That AEW, what AEW has been doing with the Blackpool Combat Club, and them having Regal there with them, it's a great pairing. Overall, this was entertaining. An entertaining trios tag team match. And then we went to Red Dragon, Adam Cole, and the Young Bucks. It was on the Cutler cam, Brandon Cutler's cam. Kyle O'Reilly ended up asking where the feisty Young Bucks is. He ended up saying that they've all been losing. He ended up saying that they should live up to the name. He ended up saying that tonight he will qualify for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament qualifying match. So Adam Cole ended up saying that as a team, they can't be stopped. So he ended up telling the Bucks their friends are gone, but they're still here. Adam Cole ended up saying that next week they do an open challenge, a 10-man tag, to remind everyone how dangerous they are. And Adam Cole ended up saying he has to take care of something quickly. So that was announced later on tonight. We're going to be getting a 10-man tag next week on Dynamite. And then we had Tony Khan's big announcement, which this was hyped up for the week. There were people saying, oh, Tony Khan, maybe it's a HBO Max deal trying to get ROH on there, or something along the lines of ROH, but it wasn't that. So Tony Schiavone was on the stage, and he ended up bringing out Tony Khan. Tony Khan ended up coming out, got a ovation from the Pittsburgh crowd. Tony Khan always holding things down and doing good behind the scenes. Tony Khan is a guy who actually cares what the fans want to see. So Tony Khan came out and he welcomed the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Takami Obari. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So he ended up coming out, and before anything else happened, Adam Cole ended up appearing. Adam Cole went on to say that he's one of the biggest stars to ever wrestle in Japan. So Adam Cole did the announcement. So Adam Cole ended up saying that on June 26th, AEW and New Japan present Forbidden Door. which is going to take place in Chicago at the United Center. So that was the announcement. Pay-per-view, June 26th. AEW and New Japan present Forbidden Door. Then Adam Cole ended up saying that on Rampage, which we're going to see tonight, he's going to be facing Tomohiro Ishii in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament qualifying match. And he then ended up saying that a special friend wants to say hello. So Jay White ended up coming out. Jay White came out. He ended up thanking Adam Cole for the introduction. And White ended up stating that the last time New Japan had such a big joint event, he sold out MSG. White ended up telling them both it isn't about New Japan or AEW. It's about the Undisputed Elite and the Bullet Club. So Jay White ended up going on to say that it's still their era. So that was that. But there you go. June 26th, AEW, New Japan, Forbidden Door. Should be a awesome, good show. Going to take place in Chicago at the United Center. So that was the announcement. And then we saw Jade Cargill and Mark Sterling and Red Velvet and Kiera Hogan backstage. And Red Velvet and Kiera Hogan are, Jade Cargill's now baddie section, as what they are calling them. So Jade Cargill ended up saying that she's not afraid of Maria Shafir, and that she'll see Maria on Rampage, bitch, as what Jade Cargill had to say. But that was that. We're going to be seeing that match tonight on Rampage. It should be another boring match with Maria Shafir in it. If you didn't see that match last week on Dynamite where Maria Shafir made her Dynamite in-ring debut against Sky Blue, man, just watch how that crowd was during that match. That crowd was put into a coma last week during that match. Well, it's going to be a snoozer of a match on Rampage tonight. And Jade Cargill will be possibly getting the win. And then we had The Butcher versus Warlow. So, Butcher ended up coming out, and then Warlow ended up coming out, to which MJF was in the skybox with Shawn Spears. They had a bucket of popcorn. Shawn Spears throwing popcorn down from the skybox. And MJF ended up telling the crowd that Warlow is a nobody. He ended up saying that Warlow will come out to no music. So Warlow was then brought out, still in handcuffs. And he got, of course, no music. So the Butcher and Warlow start off the match. They were charging at each other. Butcher started throwing hands at Warlow. He was attacking Warlow in the corner. Warlow fought back, ended up dropping the Butcher with some shoulder tackles. Butcher then ended up going under the ring, retrieved some chairs, and the referee ended up throwing the chairs out of there. So we had the Butcher and Warlow. They were on the outside, just going at each other. Butcher ended up launching Warlow into the apron. The Butcher then ended up hitting a powerbomb in the ring to Warlow, and Butcher ended up going for the cover. Warlow kicked out, and so Warlow came back, started doing the powerbomb of Symphony to the Butcher. He ended up hitting 4 of them, and then he ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Warlow ended up winning the match. Post-match, Warlow was let out of the arena by the security, handcuffed, and that was that. But another squash match for Warlow. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Eddie Kingston ended up cutting a promo. Kingston ended up saying that on Rampage he will face Daniel Garcia, and he just wants to face him one-on-one. So Kingston ended up saying the Jericho Appreciation Society won't be out there, Santana Ortiz won't be out there. He just wants Daniel Garcia one-on-one. And he ended up saying to Jericho to watch the match, because everything that he does to Daniel Garcia is meant for him. Kingston ended up saying that he's going to have fun and he's going to whip Daniel Garcia real good, and his friends and family won't recognize him. So that was what Eddie Kingston had to say. And then we had Kyle O'Reilly versus Jungle Boy in the qualifying match for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. And this was an enjoyable match. So we had Kyle O'Reilly end up coming out first, and then Jungle Boy made his way out along with Luchasaurus and Christian Cage. So the match started off with the both of them going back and forth. Kyle O'Reilly ended up trying to keep Jungle Boy down. He ended up dragging Jungle Boy down to the mat after Jungle Boy was looking to go for a springboard. Kyle O'Reilly ended up following up with a huge knee to Jungle Boy's face. He then continued to ground Jungle Boy with some elbow strikes. He ended up delivering a kick to Jungle Boy's back. So we had Jungle Boy end up fighting back, started delivering some elbow strikes to Kyle O'Reilly. He ended up dropping O'Reilly several times. And Jungle Boy ended up dumping Kyle O'Reilly out of the ring. And Jungle Boy followed that up with a top suicida, which looked awesome. Kyle O'Reilly ended up getting dropped with a DDT by Jungle Boy, as Jungle Boy ended up getting into the ring. Kyle O'Reilly ended up getting out with an exploder to Jungle Boy, and then he booted Jungle Boy into the ropes. He then fired back with a clothesline. Kyle O'Reilly ended up coming back with some strikes. Jungle Boy then ended up rolling through into a pin spot. So at the end of the match, Kyle O'Reilly ended up dropping Jungle Boy with a brainbuster. Kyle O'Reilly ended up heading up to the top rope, and he ended up diving down with a knee to Jungle Boy's ribs, and he ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Kyle O'Reilly ended up winning the match. He's moving on in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. But overall, very enjoyable match. This was a good win for Kyle O'Reilly. So very glad that he's moving on in the tournament. So then we had Alex Marvez. Alex Marvez was backstage with MJF and Shawn Spears. Alex Marvez was like, clearly the Butcher didn't get the job done, and so MJF ended up touching the mic, and he was pissed off at what Alex Marvez said. Shawn Spears, background, had a chair in hand. So MJF ended up saying that there was a lot more money where that came from. And much like a snake, when he decides you're his prey, it doesn't matter how big or bad you are. All it takes is one bite. So then Jake Roberts, the Snake Roberts, end up appearing. MJF ended up giving an envelope to Jake Roberts, and in the envelope was money. So Jake Roberts ended up saying that titles are for little boys, and he chased the money, and the time is right now. He ended up saying that it'll be like when you were a kid and told grandma a lie that you fell down because you didn't want her to know daddy hit you. So he ended up saying when the time is right, he will get it done. And so Lance Archer ends up coming over. Lance Archer ends up slapping the envelope out of Jake Roberts' hands. And Lance Archer ends up saying that he just wants to get his hands on and fight Warlow. So there you go. Lance Archer is going to be the next to have a match with Warlow. So that was that. But it was good seeing Jake Roberts on TV again. It's been a while since he's been shown on AEW television. We all know about Jake Roberts' health, but it was good seeing him on TV. And then we had Hook versus Anthony Henry. This was Hook's Dynamite in-ring debut. Since Hook always competes on Rampage, it's the first time that he's in the ring on Dynamite. And Hook has been impressive. Really am enjoying the style that Hook brings whenever he's in the match. It was what we've seen on Rampage. So Hook was just dominating on Anthony Henry, and Tony Nese and Mark Sterling were watching from the floor. So Hook ended up hitting crossfaces to Anthony Henry, and then Danhausen ended up appearing. Danhausen, of course, he's trying to curse Hook. He keeps on trying to curse Hook, and the curse does nothing on Hook. So Hook ended up locking in the Red Rum on Anthony Henry, and that was that. Hook ended up winning the match. Post-match, Danhausen got on the mic, and Danhausen ended up saying to Hook that if he doesn't want to be cursed by him, he will fight Hook. Hook didn't respond, and Hook ended up shoulder barging Danhausen and left. So that was basically that. So it looks like we're going to be getting that match. Hook versus Danhausen. So going to be first time, Danhausen is going to be in the ring on AEW television in a match. So Danhausen is very over with the crowd. Everybody's buying his shirts. Everybody, buys his autographs. He does pretty good merch, Danhausen. He's so over with the crowd. And then we have Frankie Kazarian. Frankie Kazarian was backstage. He was looking to call out Sammy Guevara because Frankie Kazarian wants a shot at the TNT Championship. Sammy Guevara, now a 3-time TNT champion. He won it at Battle of the Belts 2, which we saw last Saturday, which didn't make any sense on them putting the title back on Sammy Guevara. Because Scorpio Sky, he took it from Guevara, and Scorpio Sky was just a transitional champion, as what we saw at Battle of the Belts 2, when they put the TNT Championship back on Sammy Guevara. So, like I said, they mean to tell us that Scorpio Sky just won the title to keep it just warm for Sammy Guevara to win it back. It made no sense, in my opinion. Just for Guevara to lose the title, for it to go to Scorpio Sky, only for it to go back to Sammy Guevara. So, Scorpio Sky ended up interrupting Frankie Kazarian. And, this was, just a reunion, a SCU reunion, when it was just, Kazarian and Scorpio Sky, just them as a tag team, with SCU. So, Scorpio Sky ended up saying 5 years ago, he gave Kazarian a call, and they formed SCU. But he ended up saying he needs one more favor. Scorpio Sky ended up telling Frankie Kazarian that he wants him to wait just a little bit longer because he wants, his rematch against Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. And Scorpio Sky ended up promising Kazarian that he will get the first shot at the TNT Championship if Scorpio Sky wins it back. Frank Kazarian ended up saying to Scorpio Sky that he has always had his back, and he always will. So that was basically that. But it was cool seeing Kazarian and Scorpio Sky, together again. When they were, SCU. I enjoyed when Kazarian and Scorpio Sky, were SCU and were a tag team. They had good chemistry in the ring, working together. And then we went to Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti in the ring. And you all know where this was going to head. So they were in the ring. The Pittsburgh crowd ended up booing them, which, Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti, I said this, they are the AEW versions of Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Remember, because I mentioned this when Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch were on TV, and then they had the whole feud with Corbin and Lacey Evans, and WWE just forced that on us, pairing Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch together, just saying, oh yeah, well, they're in a relationship, they're dating, let's just get them on TV and have them go out there and, be in this feud with Corbin and Lacey Evans when that happened. Same thing that we're seeing here with Guevara and Tay Conti. So, Sammy Guevara ended up saying that he feels right. He's a 3-time TNT champion. And with the love of his life, Tay Conti. He ended up saying that he's going to give fans his everything because they deserve it. Those who cheer for him. He ended up saying that the rest who turned their back is because, Tay Conti is better looking than theirs. So he was pretty much throwing shit at, the single guys who can't have a wonderful woman like he does in Tay Conti. So Sammy Guevara was coming off very heelish here. So Scorpio Sky ended up appearing, and he came out along with Ethan Page and Dan Lambert. And from the looks of it, with Sammy Guevara coming off as heel here, Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, and Dan Lambert are now the baby faces. So Scorpio Sky came out. He ended up asking if that's how it's going to go. And that he's screwing the fans who got him here watching his stupid vlogs. So he was saying that to Guevara. And Ethan Page ended up telling Sammy Guevara to shut up, as nobody came here to listen to him talk. And he ended up saying that the only reason him and Scorpio Sky aren't beating Guevara up is because Dan Lambert says tonight is about business. So Dan Lambert ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying Sammy risks it all to earn the respect of the fans. But he chose to throw it away, acting like a high school douchebag. Lambert wanted to say that Guevara either gives Scorpio Sky a rematch for the TNT Championship, or he will send them down to give him the pounding his girlfriend dreams about, which I thought was very funny. Meaning he would send Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page down there. So Sammy ended up saying that he will give Scorpio Sky the rematch if they agree to a mixed tag team title belt. So Guevara ended up claiming that it will be a ladder match for the TNT Championship. So that's going to be taking place this week on Dynamite, this upcoming Wednesday. Ladder match for the TNT Championship. It's going to be Guevara and Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page in the ladder match. But Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti, with AEW booking them like this, they could possibly be in the sort of vein, not as Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. They could be in the same vein as Edge and Lita. Remember, back in the day how Edge and Lita were paired, and they did that whole storyline with them. Edge, dating Lita. Guevara and Tay Conti could come off just like, how Edge and Lita did, back in the day. If, they do it right. And they could be the most hated heels in the company. MJF is the most hated heel there by the fans. And Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti could be the next heels that the fans really hate. So that's how I see it going. And then we had a vignette from the House of Black. So we saw Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews there. Buddy Matthews ended up saying that they have changed the narrative. And Black was talking about how they're owed a debt, and Icarus flew too close to the sun, and next week the sun dies. As what Black ended up saying. So it was a very cryptic vignette by the House of Black. So we saw that. And then we had the women's qualifying match in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Danielle, Kamela versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, in her hometown of Pittsburgh. So she got a huge ovation. The fans had the little yellow towels that said DMD on it. They were waving it around as Britt Baker ended up making her way out. And Britt Baker ended up making her way out with Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Both guys from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Najee Harris is the running back of the Steelers, and Pat Freiermuth is the tight end of the Steelers. They end up accompanying Britt Baker down to the ring. And this was just very meh match, in my opinion. So Britt Baker ended up dominating on Kamela during the match. Started delivering some forearms in the corner to Kamela. Kamela ended up firing back at Baker with a sharp elbow and then some strikes. Kamela ended up escaping a lockjaw from Britt Baker. And she ended up locking in a headlock to Britt Baker to slow down the pace of the match. So we had Kamela end up connecting with a running kick to Britt Baker. She ended up grabbing one of the towels to just take out Britt Baker. And it fired up Britt Baker, and she ended up taking Kamela down, started attacking her. And then Baker ended up dropping Kamela with a sling blade. She followed up with a kick to the face to Kamela. Britt Baker ended up dropping Kamela with a neck breaker, and she hit the stomp. And then she ended up getting a glove, and it was a Pittsburgh Steelers glove. So she ended up locking in the lockjaw on Kamela, and there you go. The Doctor ended up winning the match. She's moving on in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament for the women. Post-match, the Doctor got on the mic, and she ended up saying they finally have a woman with a mic who knows how to use it. She ended up going on to say that the women's division is a disaster without her. So Baker ended up running down the women's division. She mentioned Ruby Soho insulting her, and then mentioned Toni Storm. And she was saying after her friend Jamie Hayter gets done with Toni Storm will want to leave the company too. So that was pretty much shade thrown at Toni Storm, leaving WWE, and Toni Storm might want to leave AEW also, according to Britt Baker there. When Jamie Hayter is done with her. So Britt Baker ended up saying that she doesn't know what's worse, her whooping Red Velvet's ass or her being a baddie because Britt Baker ended up stating that Jade Cargill called Pittsburgh ugly. And she ended up saying that the only people here that want to see her are the baddies she comped tickets for. Meaning, of course, Red Velvet and also Kiera Hogan. So that was what Britt Baker had to say. So, but the Doctor, moving on in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament for the woman. And then we got a little video package for Serena Deeb versus Hakaroshida, which is going to take place next week on Dynamite. So this is shaping up to be a good match between Serena Deeb and Hikaru Very much looking forward to that match next week on Dynamite. Main event. The Coffin match. Darby Allin versus Andrade El Idolo. Andrade ended up coming out first, and then Darby Allin. And this was a good main event. Very enjoyable match this was. You had the Coffin set up out there. Inside, as you lifted the top of the coffin, it had thumbtacks there. So when you shut the lid of the coffin, the opponent would be hit with the thumbtacks also from the top. So I thought that was a pretty cool way to do that. So the match started with the Blade. The Blade tried to distract Darby Allin, but he ended up using the skateboard to attack Andrade. Mark Gwen then ended up appearing, and it was just Andrade, the Blade, and Mark Gwen doing a 3-on-1 assault on Darby Allin. Darby Allin ended up fighting back, but Andrade just charged him through the barricade. So Mark Gwen, he ended up pulling aside from a fan that was dressed as Sting. Had the mask, had the sign in hand. But it was revealed to be Sting. So Sting disguised himself with a mask of himself, which was funny. So then Sting was just beating down on Mark Gwen and also the Blade. So they end up brawling up to the stairs, to the level of the stairs there in the arena. Mark Gwen ended up using the chair, and Sting ended up firing up because Mark Gwen used the chair to hit Sting with it. It did nothing to Sting, and Sting ended up pushing him off. Sting ended up climbing up to the top of the section, and he dived off the top of that with a crossbody. He ended up taking Andrade and Mark Gwen and the Blade down. He had 63-year-old Sting jumping from the top of the section, diving with a crossbody, taking Mark Gwen, Andrade, and the Blade down. So we had Andrade end up hitting a German suplex to Darby Allin on the stage, and he ended up following it up by launching Darby Allin onto the metal grate at the top of the ramp. So Darby Allin ended up hitting hard on the metal grate. So Andrade then ended up dragging Darby Allin back towards the coffin. He sent Darby Allin into the ring steps. And Andrade was trying to destroy the coffin because he didn't want to, have the top of the coffin drop with the thumbtacks on him. So he ended up carrying Darby Allin to the ring apron. Darby Allin ended up fighting Andrade off. Darby Allin ended up charging with a top suicida, which sent both him and Andrade into the coffin. So Darby Allin ended up trying to shut the lid of the coffin, and we had Jose. Andrade's assistant, Jose, ended up coming out. Jose ended up trying to stop Darby Allin from trying to close the coffin on Andrade. So Jose ended up flipping off Darby Allin. He ended up taking off his shirt. Darby ended up fighting back. And he ended up throwing Jose onto the thumbtacks. Darby Allin ended up slamming the lid on top of Andrade to win the match. So there you go. Darby Allin ended up winning the match. And that was how Dynamite went off the air. Overall, very enjoyable match this was. Sting still jumping off the top of the section, delivering a crossbody to Mark Wen and Andrade, and the Blade there with that spot. But overall, Dynamite, good show this week. Really enjoyed it. And the whole announcement with the AEW New Japan Forbidden Door, actually looking forward to it. I never watched a full New Japan show. I've seen clips here and there of the show, but haven't watched like a full show of New Japan. But I like to see what they do with the pay-per-view come June 26th. Anyways, that's it for my review of this past Wednesday's edition of Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all later tonight with SmackDown and AEW Rampage. So stay tuned for both reviews of that tonight. So see you all later.